We're going to talk today a little bit about the importance of having a solid special order parts process, what we feel that process should be, minor adaptations based on your personnel, your specific dealer environment. A couple things that I want to stress that I typically do not see dealers doing that I really value and have great value for the customer. So kind of starting from the top, the importance of the process and how the process goes is, we got to create an order for a part, and instantly we have to start making decisions. Do we have a customer here? Do we have a car down? Do we have a repair order written? Of course we have a repair order written, right? We better. We got to have a paper trail. Every car, every time, a paper trail. Is the customer leaving us? Are they returning at a later date? What is that plan? As the parts manager, you have to have that mindset of you have a fiduciary duty to the company to protect the investment of the inventory. So you always got to ask yourself, what's the best way to go about getting this part, both for the customer and for the company? How should I get it? You have to share that thought process with your people. Your people have to know and understand your beliefs and what's best, and all of that is, of course, communicating with your employees. Make sure that they know what you expect. If the customer's staying or the car's down, the answer's typically obvious. Of course, we got to do what we can to get it as quick as we can for the customer. But when they leave is when things get interesting. We order a part, and now the customer's gone, and we're putting the money out to get this part. Most of the time, we're at the minimum getting a down payment. Of course, we always advise that you get the whole payment. It's a commitment. But when they leave, this is where it gets interesting. If the customer's leaving, there's a few things that every parts and service department needs to consider. And notice I said parts and service. You're a team. You're not individual departments. You're all trying to strive toward the same goal. All too common, it's parts versus service, not parts and service. I'm sure you don't have that problem, though, right? I think you'd probably, if you interviewed your employees, find that more often than not, you have parts versus service instead of parts and service. But we'll talk a little bit more about that the next time we meet. It's really a requirement that we're all on the same team, moving the same direction. So now here we go. We've got an advisor that has to communicate the cost and the availability to the customer. Cost and availability being what is it going to take to get that part ordered for the customer, and how long do we anticipate it to take to get that part? Customer has to know these things very clear and straightforward. Advisor communication to the customer. Customer absolutely has to know his or her costs well before they pick up the car that night. And, if it's a warranty replacement part, of course, we're going to have a repair order and they don't have to give you any money. But anytime the customer's paying, we want that commitment. Now here's where I typically see a failure, and this is honestly my favorite part. It's an opportunity, of course, for repeat business, and even better, it's the perfect opportunity to control your shop load to an extent. We get to pick. We should be scheduling the installation of that part before the customer ever returns to get his or her vehicle. We want that appointment. Why do we want that appointment? Because we get to pick. Creates a sense of urgency and importance in getting back and getting that part installed. Schedule the appointment for the installation of that part before the customer ever returns for their vehicle that day. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen quite enough, but it is critical, and it means a lot. This is the part that I honestly very rarely see. And we do this for a few reasons. Like I said, the urgency and importance is there. The customer basically gets to kind of pick their day. We're accommodating them. We're asking for their input, convenience, but it also helps you in scheduling your shop. Anytime you can plan your day, your shop load, you're in a better position than not. Because what happens if we don't do this? What happens if we don't schedule the customer's car? And typically the parts manager will go and say, hey, we got the part for Mr. Smith, and we go and we call Mr. Smith, and Mr. Smith says, I'll be right there. Well, now I have no control over my shop. Now I'm putting cars in that maybe I did or didn't expect that day, and I'm having to alter my shop load. If I schedule them ahead of time, I already have anticipation of when that person will be coming. It gives me the opportunity to make sure my techs have the right amount of work for the day that this customer is coming. If I know it's a 2-hour job, I can set a couple hours aside for technician A to get this accomplished in a timely fashion. It all creates a little better customer satisfaction window. So you and the customer get to decide when they return. You're therefore controlling that load. It's ultimate and it's important that you do that. Not only are we having the opportunity to control it, but we've got the commitment from the customer and they are coming back. And now we have to work with this information. Managing that reservation process is sometimes difficult, but communication's the world. Of course, the last thing we ever want is a customer that comes back and the part's not there yet, right? You know, the customer maybe we remembered to make that appointment, and maybe we ordered that part, and we told them it'd be in Tuesday, and here comes Tuesday, and we don't have the part here yet. Well, that's obviously not good either. That's the first hole that everybody panics when they say, how can I schedule them right away? I don't know when the part's going to be here. Well, we have to talk to each other. Now, every day the parts manager should be speaking to the advisors about what has arrived for the department and what, if any, parts, have changed any statuses, gone to back orders, what have you. So we have this opportunity, since we're talking about it anyway, to always check our schedule. It helps us, in early schedule changes needed for customers who have parts on order. We then know how to change our shop load, total planning, total anticipation of what my day is going to be. Every day, the advisors should be looking a couple of days ahead in their schedules to determine what customers do I have coming for special order parts from prior reservations. They then take that information. Maybe they know the part is here already. Maybe they don't. They should, at that point, go to the parts department with that reservation information, physically put their hand on the part with the parts guy, know that the part is there, and come back and make your reminder call. We're calling and reminding all of our customers about their reservations anyway, I'm sure. That's absolutely a correct process. So this is an opportunity to put that reminder out and know that you have the part in hand. If you do it right, it sometimes takes a change and a mindset, a habit has to be formed, and we like to call it creating a way of life. It isn't something that we're looking to just do for a week or two and then slowly pieces of it fall apart. It's something that you have to put concentration on each and every time that you order a part for a customer and they're leaving your store. Eventually that then becomes the way of life and it becomes the norm, and the excuse of we don't have enough time to do that falls by the wayside because it's just what we do. When something becomes just what we do, time is never an issue. We always find the time to do what we just always do. So then, we've got this information from the parts department. We're aware that the parts arrived, and we verify that the part's correct. We've given them the reminder call. What happens next? The customer shows up. We've got the part, we know it, and we've got the shop loaded correctly to know how much time we need to install that part for the customer, and we end up with a happy transaction. Rescheduling customers as needed, sometimes that happens, kind of rare. Shouldn't happen much if we did our job correctly at order creation and found out part availability before placing the order. We're always going to schedule that appointment, that first appointment to have that part installed before the customer leaves with the information relating to when that part is anticipated to arrive. If the parts department tells us 2 days out, we're not going to schedule that appointment for a third or fourth day forward into the future. So we should always be setting ourselves up with a good position. But there's going to be times where something goes wrong and the depot doesn't have the part or what have you, and we have to reschedule. Anytime we can bring information to the customer first, we still look like heroes. Now, we've got that information, albeit bad. We call Mr. Smith and we say, Mr. Smith, I'm sorry. The Chicago warehouse isn't going to have that part to me in time for the reservation that we had set. I'm going to need you to move you to like a week from now or whatever, and discuss that with them. And they appreciate that. You look like you're on top of your game and you're still maintaining that commitment of part reinstallation. Because the last thing we want out of any time we order a part is for the part to come in and sit on our shelves. Now we've got to eat money sending it back, or it's going to sit there and become inactive inventory, and we've got all this tied up capital, and that's how the beginnings of a bad inventory typically start. Every parts manager in the world that has any obsolescence issue will always say, well, the service department didn't get that guy back in. Part of that whole parts versus service thing. Instead of parts versus service, it's parts and service. If we're communicating with one another, we don't have that. We have the ability to, number one, get the appointment, number two, get the part, and number three, satisfy the transaction. Satisfying the transaction means the customer is then satisfied. You know, all of that stuff sounds perfect. Of course, everybody has to adapt. You know, what are the holes in any of this? The first hole is communication. If advisors aren't talking to parts guys and managers, if parts managers aren't talking to advisors, something in this process will fall apart. It's very simple, and it's not time-consuming. But we have to talk to each other to make it work right. Nobody can expect the other one to come to them. We have to take the initiative to go to the other one. You know, self-accountability, we talked about that a few weeks back. If I don't go and find out the information, I can't trust that that information will come to me. If I don't bring that information, the advisor won't come and ask me about it. So I have to do my part. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Obviously the most important thing. What's the second problem in all of it? Generally, you need to have a relatively rigid return policy. And you have to communicate as a parts manager with the service team every day on how old any special order parts are getting. Not just once a week, not just once a month, every day. You hit that 14th or that 21st day window, start to remind them that this part's going to be returned on X day, because that is how I have to protect the inventory. That's my job as the parts manager. If I don't protect the inventory, then I'm failing my boss. My boss is entrusting me to make sure that my inventory is active and the money is well spent. Part of that, how we do that, is we communicate with the service team. Don't think they're going to come to you and say, hey, do you have the part for Mr. Smith? Bring that information that you do have the part for Mr. Smith to the service team, and nicely, politely, part of the team, because our goal is all the same. We want to sell that part, and we want to sell that labor. Let them know that eventually that part has to go back, and start talking about it well before it has to go back. Give them an opportunity. But you have to have a line in the sand. Once that line in the sand is crossed a time or two, the seriousness becomes all that much more of a reality. And as you're doing your part and giving 2 weeks and 1 week's notice of return, eventually that all goes away. All becomes the way of life. Everything that we do has to become the way of life. And the last one, the biggest hole that I typically see is the soft parts guy and the oh, come on service advisor. You know, the service advisor, we've all had one. The service advisor that the car pulls in the lane and customer needs a windshield wiper arm, and we don't have that one because it's the rear of some goofy make. And oh, come on, just order it for him. I'm too busy to go make an RO. I'm sorry. We can't do that. There has to be the paper trail. Don't fold for it. Have them get it while the customer is there. How the parts guy kind of controls that is he gets involved in the communication with the customer as well. Don't just leave the communication to the service advisor, because the service advisor will start to lean toward, oh, the parts guys are making me do this, hang on. If the parts guy is having communication with the customer as well, the customer and the parts guy and the service advisor have to become a team to achieve the goal. And then taking the time to make the repair order so that we have the paper trail happens. Make the customer feel like it's okay to take a few minutes to get that paper trail created so that we know we can be thorough with you. That's how we overcome the oh, come on service advisor. Every store has one or had one, and they all want to just cut that corner because it's easy and they need to get back to the desk for whatever. It's all time perception. The advisor has the time to do it because it doesn't take that much time, and he has to make an RO sometime anyway. Make the RO. Get the order going, have the paper trail, and do it the right way. And generally, the parts guys, unfortunately, have to kind of police that. The parts guys have to insist on that and don't roll over for the persuasive service advisor that wants to push you into doing something that is outside of the process, that is outside of the way of life that we need to create. We've got the process. We're scheduling the customers when they leave. We're making sure we've got the paper trail. We're following up in the schedule and checking who's coming within the next 48 hours. We're going to make our reminder calls. We're going to verify that the part is here physically in our hand. And we're going to bring the customer in. What does it all do? Why is it important? Number one, as a dealer, it's important because that means we're doing the best job we can to protect the investment of the inventory. Equally as important, what does it do for the customer? You look thorough. You look like you know your game, and you look like you care about having it right for them when they come back all the way through the entire transaction. That's ultimately the most important in anybody's mind, right? I always tell people they can't leave mad. You know, one of the guys on our team, John, he talks about they like us when they come in, they love us when they leave. That's exactly the truth. If they didn't like us, they wouldn't come in. But how do we make them love us when they leave? This is one of the ways we can. Even though they had to come back twice, we still looked like we cared and we were on top of our game. Being on top of our game means being thorough. Being thorough means following the steps every time. Not taking, not this time I can't do this step because I'm quote-unquote too busy. Make the time. Make it the way of life. It's important. It becomes normalcy. The whole idea is in normalcy is fluidity. The more fluid the process becomes, the more normal the process becomes, the lesser opportunities for failures in the process, from the parts guys through the parts manager to the service advisors to the service manager. Everybody has to believe that the process is the right thing for the customer, and it is. It helps protect the inventory, and it helps the service guys protect the integrity of the visit. The service guys then know they have a part. The service guys have commitment from the customer that they're coming back to get that part put on. There's nothing more important than looking like you know the game and looking like you care about the customer. If we care about the customer, they love us when they leave. There's nothing more important. And in the process, we've also done the right thing for the dealer, and we've helped protect the inventory. I can't stress it enough that, those are the two importance. Take care of the customer. Part of that is being on top of your game, and protect that inventory. That inventory is a massive investment, and it's money that, for the most part, sits for 3, 6, 9 months before it ever sells. We can't allow that inventory to grow and become inactive. And this is one of the ways we prevent that. Every parts manager will tell you a good chunk of their obsolescence is created by a poor SOP process. This is a solid SOP process. Of course, you have to adapt some things based on your specific scenarios. But get the part paid. Should it be paid in advance, if it's not a warranty situation. Get the reservation commitment from the customer before they ever pick up their car that night. Commitment. Key word. Because then they are in turn committing to you that they're coming back for it. There is an expectation set. Follow through with your schedules, your reservations every day. Who do I need to communicate with? Who do I need to look for and go put my hands on that part before they come in, before I call them and remind them? And have that line in the sand for how long you can keep it. But you have to communicate every day, parts team to service team, every day, what parts I have here that are aging, what parts are at that 14 and 21-day window that we have to worry about sending back. It works, okay? It works. Unfortunately, not many stores are doing the reservation at the time of order creation, but it works. It really does, and it prevents obsolete parts from being created by a non-thorough reinstallation of those parts or installation of those parts. Anybody got anything to add to the process? Anybody doing anything particular or better or what fits your situation that maybe everybody could learn from? Anybody got anything? It's pretty thorough. It works. I can tell you that. I'd love to hear if anybody's got anything that kind of does the same thing. Adaptation is the key. There is no set thing in life that is absolutely 100% correct for everybody. The generality of this we know works. We know it works. We've seen it work. Unfortunately, a lot of stores aren't getting that reservation commitment at the time of order. but it's a great idea, and it really does work. And remember, the whole reason we do it all is the fluidity in the visit and the customer satisfaction and the appearance of we know and care about you and your car, and we're here to take care of you. And even if we can't do it all in one day, we still have the brains to put it all together to do it in two, because we know our business.
This is Clayton, and just
hey,
wanted
Clayton.
to add one thing, because you're absolutely right about getting the customer's commitment before they leave the store when you order the part. It's so important. And one of the things that you can add just to get more buy-in from the customer is when you set up that appointment, let the customer know that, Mr. Customer, the day before your appointment, I will be giving you a call to let you know, just to give you a reminder that your appointment is for tomorrow. I just wanted to let you know that because sometimes I know you get a lot of calls, and I just wanted you to be expecting my call. That gets the customer buying into, hey, I'm going to get a call from this guy. I know my appointment is set for the next day, so I can be expecting this, and I can get my day around, I can schedule my day around all these things. And even when you call the customer and say, hey, Mr. Customer, your part is in, you may have the customer say, oh, I'm glad you called, Clayton, because I can't come in tomorrow. And that way you're saying, great, not a problem, Mr. Customer. Let's schedule for another day that's convenient for you. And that way you're still ahead of the game with your schedule, and you don't have those holes in your schedule where you have technicians standing around not working and not being productive. So it's just a double check. So every day you're productive, your technicians are productive, your parts department knows what's going on, and that you've got the customers involved, and the process continues to roll smoothly.
That's awesome, man. That's absolutely awesome. And that's why we do it all. You know, it's part of the looking like you know your business, as well as protecting your business, you know, controlling that shop load, controlling that inventory. That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. And then we still, at that point, you know, if say they do need to reschedule, that's when we can kind of reinstill or initially instill the reality that we can't hold on to that part forever. You know, okay, yeah, I get that. I'm sorry you can't make it tomorrow. Let's get you going for sometime in the next few days, though, because I can only have that part here so long before I got to send it back to Chevy or Ford or whoever. You know, that's a first opportunity to let them know that there is a little bit of urgency. It's all right if you can't make it, but I still have some timelines I got to live up to. And it works out great. That's awesome. Thanks, Clayton. Anybody else got anything? Nobody has anything else. I thank you very much for listening. If you have any questions, feel free to call any of us. Contact the office. We're happy to help. Give us a ring, and thank you for your time.
Real good
Have a good day.
today. Thank you.
Thank you, Bruce. Have a good day.